Hi, you are watching Economy by Bhushan Jalali. Today we have chosen the topic of urbanization. So in the urbanization we will be discussing about the criteria for urbanization, urban area and rural area and Rurban and other related topics with regard to urbanization. So first of all we must know about the criteria for declaring a area as a rural area. There are different definitions by different organizations, different agencies. For example, Reserve Bank of India, as per their guidelines, any area which has a population of less than 49,000 is called a rural area. Or in other ways we can say that tier 3 to tier 6 cities are treated as rural areas. These are the definitions of the RBI. And what is now the concern is, what are different tiers of cities? Tier 1 is that city, that area where population is 1 lakh and above. That is called tier 1 city. Tier 2 city is where the population is below 1 lakh and above 50,000. That is tier 2 city. Then tier 3 city is the area where population is more than 20,000 and less than 50,000. Then tier 4 is where the population is less than 20,000 and above 10,000. And tier 5 is where the population is below 10,000 but above 5,000. And tier 6 cities are those cities where the population is less than 5,000. These are the classification of different tiers of cities in India as per RBI guidelines. And as per the Constitution of India, the metropolitan area is that where the population is more than 10 lakhs. It may be in one district or two districts, or there may be one municipality or two municipalities, but the total area where the population is more than 10 lakhs, that area is declared as a metropolitan city as per the Constitution of India, where the population is more than 10 lakhs. But as per the Census Commission of India, any area is declared as a metropolitan area where the population is more than 40 lakhs, we call it 4 million. So you must always know there are different criterion set by different agencies. But the state government declares an area as a metropolitan area where the population is more than 1 million, that means more than 10 lakhs. But there are other characteristics. This I shared you, this is about the population criteria. There is other characteristics about which area can be declared as an urban area. Number 1, population density. Population density should be more than 400 per square kilometer, and the population should be more than 5,000. 2, that will be declared urban. And third criterion is that 75% of the working population in that area should be working with only non-agriculture activities. That means commerce, industries, other things. Non-agriculture activities. These are the criterion for declaring a place as an urban area. Normally, these are administrative headquarters, municipalities, corporations, military cantonments. These places are declared as urban area. So now you have come to know which place you can decide a rural area, urban, and then metropolitan area, or tier 1 city, tier 2 city, tier 3 city. Now there is a second concept that is called Rurban. Basically it is a scheme, or we can say a mission, known as Shyama Prasad Mukherjee Rurban mission. What is this Rurban? This is a combination of rural and urban. How? This mission or this scheme program is introduced only in the rural areas with the objective, with the intention of maintaining or preserving the rural atmosphere, rural culture, and at the same time providing basic facilities which are available in urban areas. So these are the clusters, and those clusters where the rural ethos, the rural tradition, the rural culture is maintained and preserved and nurtured. At the same time, those areas, those clusters of villages are provided with the urban basic amenities. Basic amenities, when we talk of basic amenities, it means roads, streets, lanes, drinking water tap, sanitary, technology, digital awareness and digital facilities, training for entrepreneurs to grow. All these are come under this rural-urban clusters. So far 300 clusters are there, in which there are 109 tribal clusters and 191 non-tribal clusters. They are located in 28 states and 8 union territories. Now, how do you identify a urban area or urban cluster? So, in rural areas, some growth centers are identified. What do you mean by growth center? Different areas, different locations, there are certain pockets in the rural areas where there is some potential, some resources. It may be agriculture, industrial, human, services, or natural resources, which if grown or attended to with complementary facilities, that can improve the economy of that area along with the other villages or other areas in that vicinity. So the growth center is identified, and in an area of about 5 to 10 kilometers of that potential resource, a urban cluster is identified. This is actually what is urban area. So one thing is important, that you should know that in some rural areas a growth center is identified which has some resources. It may be human resource, it may be natural resource, it may be agriculture resource, it may be horticulture resource, it may be industrial resource, it may be artisan, sometimes a particular type of artisans, anything. Is that should be in such a resource which can bring economical transformation in that entire area, which in turn can increase the economic development of that area. Now, what does the government do under this Rurban scheme, Shama Prasad Mukherjee Rurban scheme, Rurban mission? They provide activities linked to economic activities, developing skills, training, entrepreneurship in that particular area, so that that area is grown, with the intention to preserve and nurture the essence of rural community with focus on equity and inclusiveness, with all the essentials of an urban area. That means they are creating in rural area pockets ranging from 5 to 10 kilometers, which will be having all the basic facilities which are available in an urban area. That is why these are called Rurban villages or Rurban clusters. Fine. Now, what is the outcome of these missions? The outcome of this Rurban mission is it is bridging the divide between rural and urban areas. As you know that urban areas are considered to be more developed, with more employment opportunities, with better civic life. So the divide between rural and area is bridged by this Rurban mission. Secondly, as you know that economic activities are more available in urban areas, so by developing these Rurban clusters or urban villages, the economic development will be spanned in different clusters in rural areas. And third is it will attract investment in rural areas. So normally the investors, they invest where there are other facilities also. So if you develop a urban area, the investors will be wooed to invest in these urban clusters. Now, what are the projects or what facilities are provided in these clusters? These include sanitation, piped water supply, solid and liquid waste management, village street lights. Normally villages don't have the street lights, so they provide village street lights and electrification, access to village streets and drains, inter-village roads connectivity, public transport, skill development, training linked to economic activities of that area, service processing, processing and allied activities, health, education, digital literacy, citizen service centers, LPG gas connections, environment, employment generation and self-help groups, tourism promotion, sports infrastructure, social infrastructure, rural housing and social welfare. These are normally available in urban areas. When these areas, these facilities, these infrastructures, these social welfare programs will be interested in those clusters ranging from 5 to 10 rural areas, mostly tribal and as well as non-tribal areas. These are the facilities which will be developed with the help of this Rurban area, Rurban mission. Now the point is about the funding. How the funding will be done under this Shama Prasad Mukherjee Rurban mission. It is a centrally sponsored scheme. It is a centrally sponsored scheme. You know, there are two types of scheme. One is called center sector scheme, and second is called centrally sponsored scheme. So in centrally sponsored scheme, funding will be shared and the execution will be done by the states, as we all know. 70% of the funds will come from the center. How? By convergence of different schemes. Convergence means there are different ministries have different schemes for different activities, social activities. So the different ministries will pool in or converge their activities specific to this particular cluster. So 70% of the funds will be generated, will be met out of these convergence of different central sector schemes, including CSR funds. The remaining 30% of the funds will be by critical gap funds. Critical gap funds where there is investment shortage, that will be met by out of the critical gap funds, and it will provide maximum up to 30 crores for clusters which are non-tribal areas. For tribal area clusters, the maximum amount will be 15 crore per cluster. What is the progress? Progress of this program is that there are 109 tribal clusters so far and 191 non-tribal clusters. How they identify? They visualize the requirement as well as the achievement of that cluster with the help of Bhaskaracharya National Institute for Space Applications and Geoinformatics and Ministry of Panchayati Raj. That means with the help of spatial aerial surveying, they will be judging or measuring the requirement or the performance of a cluster of villages by drawing a map or drawing a mapping of that particular area with the use of these National Institute of Space Applications. And as on November 2024, so far the performance is concerned, state-wise performance is concerned, there are two types of rankings there. One is state-wise, which state is leading. The second is which cluster is leading. So state-wise, Tamil Nadu is the first, gets the first position, followed by Mizoram, and third position is Uttar Pradesh, who have performed well so far as the Rurban mission is concerned. If we see the ranking as per the clusters, top 3 clusters wise ranked are, one is ABWK, AIBWK, that is again in the Mizoram. Second place goes to Dasna Dehat, it is in UP Ghaziabad. And third place goes to Kovilapugudi, that is in Tamil Nadu, Madurai. So we can say this is an important point to be noted if for the case of this multi-choice questions, that if the question is asked about the ranking urban mission as per states, then we can say Tamil Nadu is leading, followed by Mizoram, and third place is UP. While as in the case of clusters, that Mizoram is leading, followed by UP, and third place is Tamil Nadu. Now the point is, what are the parameters for ranking for this Rurban mission? The first parameter is integrated cluster action plan. Once it is decided by the state government that we have to develop this area as a Rurban cluster, then whether they are working for it or not, for that they have to check whether they have drawn the integrated cluster action plan. So the points are ranked, different clusters, if they have drawn the action plan, that what they are going to do in that cluster. This is one parameter for judging, for ranking different clusters or different states. Secondly is whether they have prepared the DPR, draft project report. Suppose they want to construct some say medical facilities or some training institute to impart entrepreneur training program, skill development program, or some agri processing unit. So whether they have prepared the draft project report, then only they can send it for approval or for funding. So second parameter is this. Third is convergence. Since there must be different sections of the project report. One may be from agriculture ministry, some other may be from MSME ministries, other may be from rural development ministry, other may be from some education ministry. So a convergence has to be seen. So they have to see that at least 70% of the total investment is through convergence of various central and state government schemes, how much they have been able to generate. And fourth point is critical gap funding. 30% they have to arrange from the critical gap fund. This is on basis of these four parameters, the ranking of different states and different clusters is done. Again repeating, total clusters allocated as on date is 300, out of which 297 have been approved, and total action plans, total integrated cluster action plans have been made for 291, and total approved DPR is 282. This is the performance of the what we call that Rurban mission. Now what are the challenges? Challenge is the ambiguity in the cluster formation. And when you say ambiguity, that means there are different clusters in one state, different clusters in different states. So how the clusters should be formed, what should be considered, and how a potential area is identified, this varies from place to place. So there is a little bit ambiguity whether this can be considered or not considered. So it is not a definite line prescribed for it. So we can say this is a challenge how to identify a potential area, a potential cluster. This is because of the ambiguity in formation. Secondly, convergence of funds. Since funds have to come from different ministries, so it takes time. Different ministries have different yardsticks, different terms and conditions. So in order to enable a project to be launched, to get funds, part funds from one ministry, part funds from other ministry, it is a challenge how to mobilize timely. And third is implementation framework. So the implementation framework is generally considered that these should be in consonance with the national and regional priorities, along with the Panchayati Raj institutions mechanism. Being such a complex number of ministries involved, so the implementation, a smooth implementation is a challenge. Now what are the suggestions? The suggestions have been given by Niti Aayog. What? Rural areas are experiencing transformation due to globalization, demographic shifts and technological innovations, which is leading to diversity of their economies. So what is way forward for it to meet those challenges? So instead of thinking for what are the deficits, what are the deficiencies in that cluster, we must appreciate the availabilities. The focus should be on the availabilities, how we can better improve those availabilities to ensure that the cluster is developed into good economical activities. The mantra is whatever is available, appreciate the availabilities, available resources, and try to improve and encash and leverage those availabilities rather than focusing on the deficiencies. Second recommendation is to ensure that this mission is focused with gender empowerment, inclusion of all stakeholders, especially the weaker and the vulnerable sections. Innovative solutions to social and environmental change, including green technology and circular economy. What do you mean by circular economy? Circular economy means to have the minimum wastages, using and reusing it, so that ultimately we have a longer life for a particular object, particular input, and leave the minimum wastage. And the rural center developments should focus on the components of the aligned with the sustainable development goals and 29 subjects of the Panchayati Raj institutions. This is all I have to share you about Rurban. Right? Now we talk about the urbanization in India. When we talk about the urbanization, we must always remember that there are certain statutory towns. What do you mean by statutory towns? Statutory town means which are governed by municipal corporations, municipal councils, or nagar panchayats. These are called statutory towns. The second word is census towns. Census town means where the population is, minimum population is 5,000. At least 75% of the male working population, 75% of the male working population is engaged in non-agriculture activities, and population density is at least 400 persons per square kilometers. These are the fundamental certain terms which we must always remember when we are talking about the urbanization. As you know, India is considered to be a rural dominated or rural oriented country. Still we say that we are 70% of the people living in rural areas. Our economy is predominantly dominated by agriculture sector, so on and so forth. The latest census available with us is as on 2011. So as per 2011 census, we had a population of around 121 crores, out of which 31% of the belongs to urban area. This is census of 2011. Despite being a very old census, still at the rate of 31%, our population, urban population in the world comprises of 11% of the total world's urban population. Fine. Now we call that Indian population is now transiting. It is in transition. Transition from what? From rural to urban. How? Number one, it is said that by 2050, India will have 50% of the urban population. So you must remember this data, that by 2050, that means around 26 years ahead, India will have 50% of the urban population. It has both advantages as well as disadvantages also. That will be studying hereafter. But this I have told you, this is about on the basis of 2011 census. It is said that in India, the urban population is increasing at the rate of 2 to 2.5% annually. So if we consider census done today, so you can imagine what will be the actual urbanization as on date, the data of which is not available because of no census done after 2011. But at the same time, India witnessed a significant rise in the number of regions meeting urban criteria but not officially declared, recognized, while statutory towns, areas officially recognized as urban, increased by mere 5%. Repeat, statutory towns means municipal corporations, municipality, nagar panchayats, municipal committees, their population has increased by 5%. Whereas the census towns means where the population is 5,000, they have increased by 185%. They have increased by 100. That means the actual urbanization is much more than when we say it is only 31%. Once the census will be done, we will come with that huge figure. Satellite, although we say that only 31% is urban area, satellite picture says that near about 63% of the Indian towns is urban. Urban means built up area is 63%. Satellite pictures. That is actually we have urban areas much more than what is the planners use. Fine. This is the picture of the status of the urban areas in India. Now the point is how it is happening. Why? Reason is urbanization is a social and cultural process. When you say social means when one of my relatives shifts from rural to urban area, the other relatives also try to follow him or go nearer to him. Second is because of your kiths and kins, because of education, medical facilities, political administrative processes. For administratively, it may be convenient for to have to work in urban areas. Politically, because of some vote banks, other things, and economic process. It is said that economic processes activities are more in urban areas as compared to rural areas, and geographical process. So geographically, some climate or infrastructure, other things may not be available in the rural or mountainous areas, so people try to shift to the urban areas. So we can say in nutshell, the reasons for urbanization is population growth, migration, and expansion of towns and cities. These are the reasons for a rapid improvement in the urbanization. Now, what are the challenges? Challenges for this rapid and unsustainable urbanization. Challenge is governance and planning. When we talk of planning, means there should be some master plans for developing cities and towns. The pace at which master planning is done is slower than the pace at which actual urbanization happens. So that means the infrastructure, the other facilities which should be available for an urban area, they are not available, or they lack similarity with the actual. With the result, what happens? There is overcrowding and strain on infrastructure, congestion and additional burden over limited natural resources of the urban areas. Drinking water नहीं है, electricity नहीं है, all these things, roads नहीं है. Housing shortage. As of 2022, there was a housing shortage of around 19%, 19 million units in urban areas. Slum population goes on rise. About 65 million people, approximately, that is 17% of the urban population, live in slums. You know, when we talk of slums, it means the problem of health, problem of drinking water, problem of electricity, problem of education, transportation. Transportation and traffic congestions. There will be tremendous growth of, with the urbanization, there will be tremendous growth in vehicular traffic. Delhi alone has over 11 million registered vehicles in 2023. So when there are lots of vehicles, there are lots of greenhouse gas emissions, traffic jams. Public transport, as you all know, in Bengaluru and Mumbai, heavy traffic jams, significantly reducing productivity. Environmental degradation, air pollution, green space reduction. In Bangalore alone, it is said that 88% of reduction in the green spaces has been there since 2000 to 2020. Water security and pollution, water stress. In 2019, there was a day zero. Day zero means when the availability of water is bare minimum. And recently, this year, you have seen in Delhi, there was a huge drinking water problems around Delhi. Water pollution. As per Central Pollution Control Board, 70% of the India's surface water is polluted. So directly impact on health. So when there is a direct impact on health, environment, hygiene, it directly results in the mortality rate, infant mortality rate, stunting, wasting of children, undernutrition of children. Waste management. 62 million tons of municipal solid waste annually, with a significant portion left unprocessed, leading to environmental and health hazards. Disease outbreaks. India has 30 times incidence of diseases more than China has because of this problem. Socio-economic inequalities, income inequality. Urban areas, top 10% of the households earn about 30 times more than the bottom 10%. In urban areas, it is said that the maximum employment is in informal sector. It was in 2022, it was 8.2%. Now this year it has come down to 6.6% unemployment. Now, what are the steps taken by the government to mitigate those problems? Number one is 100 Smart Cities mission. Second is Atal Mission for Rejuvenation of Urban Transformation, which includes civic amenities like water supply, sewerage, urban transport, parks, circular economy. National Mission on Sustainable Habitat, one of the 8 climate missions under National Action Plan for Climate Change Mitigation Strategy, जिसमें क्या आता है? Energy efficiency in buildings, management and solid waste, and shift to public transport. Second step is National Heritage, City Development and Augmentation Program. Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana for urban areas. What is the more way forward? 500 health cities program. 500 health cities have been identified where steps will be taken to have better medical facilities. A citizen outreach campaign for making the process of urban planning more inclusive and accessible. Circular economy to minimize their negative impact on the environment. Preventing distress migration to cities through rurbanization. How you can prevent migration to cities? Rurbanization, creating clusters, or we can say transit oriented development program. Transit oriented development program means that program there where there is optimum use of land and transport, which means different cluster type are created where there is a mixture of industry and commerce, residential houses, and people are able to go move on foot or by bicycles or by using public transport. So in this transit oriented development program, use of motorable vehicle is avoided, use of metros and public transport system is encouraged, so that people are able to go their offices, go their schools, go their sports clubs on foot or by use of bicycles. This such type of facilities is normally available after every 1 or 2 kilometers in under this transit oriented development programs. So this is also a part of system how you can stop urbanization or stop migration of people from rural area to urban areas, or how you can provide better technological and infrastructure amenities in the rural areas. Atal Mission for Rejuvenation and Urban Transformation, this we have done. Under this Amrut program, the present as per the report, its status is slow implementation, only less than 50% completed. There are still 2 lakh deaths per year because of inadequate water and sanitation. Disease burden in India is greater than China, which is 40 times. 150 reservoirs filled with less than 40% of the capacity. 21 major cities are going to run out of groundwater. 40% of India's population no access to drinking water by 2030. 31% of the urban Indian households do not have piped water. 67% are not connected to piped sewerage discharge system. What went wrong? ये अमृत स्कीम क्यों फेल हो गई? No holistic approach, lack of city participation and bureaucratic nature, changes in climate and rainfall pattern, that is also a reason. Large private players and builders, real estate, proxy for urban planning. Lack of political will. How we can move forward? Sustainable development. Air, water and soil pollution, housing, tourism, real estate, employment, urban, local bodies, elected representatives and common city people. Research and innovation. This is all I have to share you about this urbanization, Rurban transit oriented development in India. Any question or any point you can ask always by text me, or you can write on the email. This is an important topic with regard to UPSC preparations, civil services preparations. In case you like it, please like it and share it. Thank you.